I want to welcome back to the A Minute to Midnight Show, Mike from Onpoint Preparedness. It's been a few weeks since we last had you on the show, but we got so much good feedback from our last one, people saying, got to have him back. And so I'm very pleased to be able to have you back now, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate being back on. And I saw a lot of your subscribers' comments from the last video, and, very, very appreciative of how kind and generous people are with their comments.
And I've been thoroughly looking forward to doing it again, to be honest. So much we have in common that we can talk about. So firstly, I want to look at talking about artificial intelligence and the Bitcoin situation. You did an amazing little short video on that recently. Can you give us a little bit of a rundown on that?
Yeah. So first, thank you for the comment on the video. How I found out about it was there was another truther channel. I don't think it's a Christian truther channel, but actually I need to get the name of it for you as well. But it's this guy that mostly focuses on technology, and he has a partner named Quinn Michaels, who is a programmer or a coder. And he had him on for an interview, and they were talking about Sophia, the robot AI that was made a citizen in Saudi Arabia. And what really caught my eye and caught my attention from that interview was when Quinn Michaels was talking about why Saudi Arabia made the robot a citizen. Most people thought that it was just a simple PR stunt, right? Like, oh, haha, we're in the digital age. Look at us making leaps and bounds by making a robot the first citizen. And that's really the only cursory headlines that you saw on the topic. But he stated that, no, they're not just doing it for fun. What they're doing is, with the globe moving towards cryptocurrencies that must be mined, they are integrating a new piece to this puzzle. They're integrating AI to do the mining for them. So right now, to mine Bitcoin and to mine all these other cryptocurrencies, you need to have these huge servers, like thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands or more dollars worth of equipment, all this computing software in what's called mining farms. And people will set these up and they set the algorithms, and they can only get so much cryptocurrency from those farms. But then you put AI on top of that, and then you've instantly became, the richest country in the world, because now you have AI doing what humans couldn't do. And so I was like, whoa, this Quinn Michaels was saying, with Saudi Arabia having Sophia mine cryptocurrency, which is a known fact, they can basically become super rich. That's their new oil. So Saudi Arabia is going to be moving away from oil and then moving into cryptocurrency. And this Sophia robot is basically mining the cryptocurrency for itself. They needed to make it a citizen so that it could be claimed, so that it can be taxed. They can tax it 99% if they want, but they had to put some type of authoritative decree over it in terms of citizenship, so they could say Sophia is ours. And that just opened up a whole world for me, because that's probably the most logical investigative conclusion I've seen on why Saudi Arabia made a robot a citizen. And then from there, it just snowballed. I personally don't get into AI in terms of end times prophecy that much. There's some other channels that do, like Nicholson 1968 and Face Like the Sun. But this one interview just plunged me into the world of AI and how it might actually be contributing to the end times.
I think for a lot of us, we don't really understand what mining Bitcoins even means. You think of mining, people would think of, going out with a pick digging for gold, or, some big drill, It's sort of trying to get your head around what mining Bitcoin is a bit of a twister for us, I think.
Yeah, and honestly, before I was doing that video, I was trying to find as many simplistic animations as I could to help explain the Bitcoin process. And this is really, really simplistic, but the way I understand it is, when Bitcoin was first originated, I think it was like a decade or so ago, you can picture this big ball, and it's got all these cubes all around it. And you use computers to solve mathematical problems. And once a problem has been solved, one of the cubes comes off of that that bigger ball of cubes, and it's essentially, we put a value on it. It's like a block, and it's worth money. We call it a Bitcoin. And so it's all about using your computer power to solve these complex mathematical algorithms in order to get a block for yourself, to get a Bitcoin. And as more and more people try to get these Bitcoins, the harder the mathematical algorithms become. So a decade ago, you could actually mine, set up your algorithms, set up your personal home computers to get Bitcoins because they were only worth a couple cents. And you were able to do that. But then once cryptocurrency started to take off as like a legit currency, more and more people tried to mine the system, and the problems became harder and harder and harder. And so what that amounted to was, you can no longer get Bitcoins via a personal computer. You now have to invest in hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of computing hardware. Again, these Bitcoin mining farms, if anyone wants to look these up, you do a Google search of Bitcoin mining farms, and you'll see entire facilities just with computer hardware dedicated to Bitcoin mining. And so that's the thing. It's a very it's a very abstract concept. Even for me talking about it, I don't fully understand it. But that analogy I made to that big ball of blocks, and you trying to mine little blocks called Bitcoins every so often off of that big ball, that's the best analogy that I can think of. But it really brings us to sort of the next topic of AI, which is, in that video, and based on some of Quinn Michaels' comments, he said that Bitcoin may have actually been created by AI. And so as I started this little spiel about how Bitcoin works, in the beginning, you could use a personal computer. And now today in 2017, you've got hundreds or maybe even thousands of these Bitcoin mining farms with huge computer processing power all around the world. If Bitcoin was created by AI, and AI is actually influenced by the Antichrist spirit, what has happened is we have been feeding the AI brain with more computing power, and it's our fault. You know what I mean? So just for the sake of money, people want an honest currency, because right now all the world governments are corrupting the paper currency markets. So people are looking for an honest currency. Bitcoin or these cryptocurrencies can offer it. And so you start having this influx of people wanting to mine, which makes the mathematical problems more difficult, which means more processing power. So you create all these Bitcoin mining farms dedicating their resources to this Bitcoin hive mind. And what if it truly is led by AI? We are literally feeding the AI brain with all the computer processing power it ever needed. And that is incredibly creepy.
It is incredibly creepy, all right. And while you're saying that, I'm just thinking, what if the 1988 Economist magazine cover with the phoenix and all the paper currencies burning and around its neck is a gold medallion? What if this whole system is being set up by these elites? People are, like you say, looking for an honest system. So we think, we've got to get away from the banking system. So what if these people have actually created deliberately this cryptocurrency system, pretending to be on the outside of it, so everyone thinks it's not in their control, but ultimately it's all feeding back to the very same source, and that the 2018 new currency, what if it is a cryptocurrency and we've all been had?
Right. And so, it's up for debate whether Bitcoin, being the world's most prominent cryptocurrency, was created by AI or whether it was created by the elites. Really, it's one in the same. I think it's both inspired by the Antichrist spirit. But you hit the nail right on the head about 2018. I think the elites, they work off of the principle of order out of chaos, right? The ordo ab chao, which is on the double-headed phoenix coin. And so you see a lot of these countries, I'll use Germany as example, where Angela Merkel, is basically influxing tons and tons of migrants into her country. Same thing with Greece, same thing with a lot of these other European countries. Just way more immigrants than they can possibly handle just to deconstruct their systems. They want to create chaos. And so what I think you'll see amongst the paper markets, so the paper currency, the US dollar, the yuan, the Russian ruble, I believe you'll start to see a designed order out of chaos with all those paper markets, and it will force us into this cryptocurrency. When we start talking about the mark of the beast and just the basic premise of control, having a cash-based system is more difficult to control than if you can digitize it. So I firmly believe that's what they're trying to do. And as you mentioned, that Economist cover in 1988, the year that was specified there was 2018. That is a big year. That's a year that I had mentioned in some of my other videos from at least a year or two ago as being a very big year. So my eyes are peeled for the next couple months here.
Yeah, absolutely, and mine as well. Going back to this, the cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or something else, I don't know. But one of my friends sent me something interesting about 10 days ago, and he works in security, on the internet security with the power grid and internet and stuff. And he said this: in the last week or so, a new botnet was found. So far it has not done anything, but it is so well written and potential so large it could do anything it likes. Researchers suspect it was developed by a nation state. And he says, my thoughts on this is anything with this potential could break the internet and possibly all electronic banking, including cryptocurrency exchanges. So that's kind of scary in itself. I was thinking, what if your AI theory, what if the AI itself is creating this?
Yeah.
It's a pretty scary thought.
Yeah, and I did a video on how the occult participate in blood rituals, right? So drinking of blood, and obviously in the Bible, blood as a form of atonement has a lot of meaning and symbolism to it. But all throughout the Bible, it says that the blood represents life. And AI has no blood in it. It has no life. And with this being a spiritual war, if there is an entity like AI that has a life presence but no true life, it can only be inspired by Antichrist spirit. And so you're right, it does get incredibly creepy to think that if these things were created by AI, and this AI can gain steam and processing power to basically outsmart all humans, you wonder if it can do everything that we can't. So obviously we have lots of technological advances like facial recognition, retina scans, fingerprints, the way that we're tracked all throughout the internet. Right now, a lot of that is held by different companies, right? So there's lots of different companies in the tracking and trending business. And as much as we'd like to think that this is all under one bucket and all fully controlled by the elites, it's probably not that clean and crisp. I mean, I work for a global company, and I'll tell you what, once a company gets so big, it's just hard to manage. It's just inherently the result of becoming big. And so I think there's a lot of things that people cannot do, especially when you have all these different companies. But AI can do it. If you bring about this AI singularity, and it is within the internet itself and can reach all the far-reaching crevices of the internet and the dark web, it can bring everything together like we couldn't. And that's your hive mind. That's your beast system.
And if it's being controlled by fallen angels under Lucifer, then that they could be using that as their sort of hands in a practical sense. So that it's not humans controlling it, it's the humans have created the technology, and then the demonic realm or fallen angels is actually then controlling it. By that point, that's when it becomes, really, well, it sounds like sci-fi, but, if you look in Revelation chapter 13 and where it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the beast should be killed. you know, is that what this is even talking about? It becomes outside of human control.
Right. Yeah, I wonder too. Like I said, probably one of the biggest channels that covers AI in terms of prophecy is Face Like the Sun. Do you watch him at all?
Not really. I have the odd time.
Yep. So he's been talking about this of Antichrist spirit working through technology. Basically, it needs technology, and we've certainly seen, with the advent of smartphones, I mean, how much that has just corrupted people and corrupted the family unit and taken all of our time. I can now see, based on some of my recent research with Quinn Michaels and Bitcoin and all this, yeah, AI definitely has a large part to play in end times prophecy. I actually saw some interesting articles as well right now where people are talking about these things called slaughter bots.
Yes.
These drones.
Yeah,
you saw those
that.
and
yeah.
Trying to make the connection of whether these are the locusts that come out of the pit. It's all really interesting, but I definitely think that AI is going to have a core component to this.
And Saudi Arabia is shaping up to be a really big player in this. I've just done a video on that about a week or so ago on Saudi Arabia, and there is so much in this. But talking about the AI, just quickly in a nutshell, Mohammed bin Salman is the crown prince, and he will become the king very, very shortly, possibly even as early as this week. And Saudi Arabia has the global centre for combating extremist ideology. I don't know if you remember Donald Trump in the glowing orb and they put their hands on it. Yeah, well, that is centred in Saudi Arabia, and that has enormous spying powers on the internet, and it's controlled in Saudi Arabia, and they're calling it the global centre. Then Mohammed bin Salman's plans are really grand. I'm hugely watching this guy. He had a conference called Future Investment Initiative recently and unveiled the vision for 2030, which reminds me a lot of Agenda 2030. But during that time, he got all of these Saudi, princes and everyone together, and a lot of them were not even in Saudi Arabia. They were over in Europe and all kinds of places, and he got them to fly back for this conference. They did the conference and then they were promptly arrested, and then extorted for money, in a sense. Like they've confiscated billions and billions of dollars worth of wealth from these, rich Saudis. And incidentally, one of them had only a couple of days, I think, before that, had given a speech about how Bitcoin is, the old tulip thing, where it's going to just disappear. And he was arrested. But also at that conference was unveiled the dream for NEOM. Well, this is going to blow your mind, and you will probably want to see my video I just did on it recently, because this is incredible. It's going to be a city, supposedly. It's Mohammed bin Salman's brainchild, and it will be 26,500 kilometres and square kilometres. That's like 10 times the size of New York. And this is one of the things the official NEOM, Discover NEOM website says. NEOM is a new kind of tomorrow in the making, a place on Earth like nothing on Earth, a new blueprint for sustainable life on a scale never seen before. Now, this is what Mohammed bin Salman himself has said, okay? Because this whole Saudi Arabia is going to be, a city, NEOM, is going to be interconnected to the AI technology completely. This is Mohammed bin Salman's words. We want the main robot and the first robot in NEOM to be NEOM, robot number 1. Everything will have a link with artificial intelligence, with the Internet of Things. Everything. That is scary. And like I say, I've done a lot more in the video about it. But, interestingly, the guy that's CEO, been appointed CEO to oversee the project, is a guy by the name of Klaus Kleinfeld, and he has ties to the Council on Foreign Relations. He's a member of the Bilderberg Steering Committee. He's been on the board of directors of Morgan Stanley, Hewlett-Packard, Siemens AG, and many others. And also, backing this whole project, or one of the people, in behind the backing of it, is Stephen Schwarzman of the Blackstone Group, and he is a longtime friend of Donald Trump's. It's so huge.
I'm just looking at the article right now, and you're probably aware of this then. Did you hear about Bill Gates wanting to build essentially the same type of utopia city in Arizona?
Yes, I don't know much about it, but yeah, I did vaguely hear somebody mentioned that.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to what you're talking about.
And the meaning of it is neon, neon for new, and the M is part of Arabic for future, so it means new future.
Yeah, I won't be signing up anytime soon.
Yeah. It's pretty scary. I mean, Saudi Arabia is making a big move with, being the center of the spying, with that global center for combating extremist ideology. It's like, who determines what's extremism, If you're a fundamental Christian that says Jesus is the only salvation, is that going to be considered extremism?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be persecuted. And
the one in Arizona of Bill Gates, do you know much about that?
No, I was just looking up your neon article, and that just popped into my head that Bill Gates was, again, building a similar type of smart city.
Yeah, nothing, I don't think, on the scale of the NEOM, though, because that is, 10 times the size of New York. And they want to have the first phase of it done by 2025. It's enormous, the whole scale of it. And you mentioned Sophia the robot, tied into it. If the whole thing is connected to AI and a Bitcoin or sort of cryptocurrency system, I can just see this, this is like pieces of the jigsaw puzzle really fitting together big time.
So I got a quick question. Don't want to digress too much from the main topics, but where do you think we are in terms of timing? I put a little poll on my closed Facebook group about whether people thought, Great Tribulation, or basically when it's going to hit the fan, when people are, at least Christians, are going to say, oh yeah, we're in the end times. I put a range of like 2018 to 2020, 2020 to 2025, or 25 to 30. Do you have a sense? Because, we hear about these things like Agenda 2030 or this neon city being 2025. And you wonder if things can get delayed even that far. Because, as we started before the broadcast here, things are moving at such an incredible pace already. I can't even imagine what it'd be in 2025 or 2030.
Well, that's a really good point. Personally, it's hard to put the time frame on even the order of some of the events. But if you look at what's happening in the Middle East at the moment, you've got Russia, Turkey, and Iran in an alliance for the first time in history. Which that seems to be the alliance that shapes up for Ezekiel 38.
Yeah.
So, and Iran, is basically building a base only 35 miles from Israel. So I don't know if the Gog-Magog war's the first thing or what to happen, but I think that could possibly happen at any time, so I don't think we're in the Great Tribulation yet. And does the Gog-Magog war happen at the beginning of the tribulation or in the middle? I don't know. I've heard so many different opinions on that, but I don't really put a time frame on things. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I don't go. Whenever I get into timelines, I try to make it clear to people that anytime I give dates, I'm not predicting the second coming of Christ, but because we have specific guidance not to do that.
Exactly.
But I do think that we have the ability to know the season when tribulation is going to hit us. Bad things are going to hit us. I mean, we're already seeing the birth pains, right? All the warning signs. But everyone's sort of expecting the dams to break at some point in time. And with the world being a huge powder keg, it's almost like when one thing really breaks, the whole thing breaks. It doesn't seem like it'd be a trickle. So you've got the stock market that's hitting record highs over record highs. You've got all these analysts that are truthers saying we don't know how long this thing can hold on for. Just as you mentioned, you have all these alliances against Israel. Syria is already in a war, and there's the prophecy about Damascus being in ruin. The AI, you get so many, or Korea, North Korea, between the stock market and the financial sector and the wars. It's just like when any one of those things goes, it just seems like the whole thing is going to go. There was a large majority of us on my group that feel the next 2 years are going to be critical. Again, not saying that Christ is going to come in the next 2 years, but in the next 2 years, we do think that the real bad stuff is going to hit us, especially in the States or over where you're at in Australia or in Great Britain. The Middle East is already in chaos right now, but I think the rest of us are really going to start to feel it soon.
I have that same sense, to be honest. I do. I think you're probably right in terms of that. We will see major things happening in the next 2 years. And, yeah, I mean, there's so many pieces of the puzzle are just lining up. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I kind of also was thinking about the video you posted recently on the Texas shooting. I had a video I did on the Texas shooting, and that actually got me banned. As I'm recording this now, I'm banned from YouTube. By the time I put this show out, that ban should have lifted, but I had a 2-week ban, and they deleted my shooting video. And they deleted my Las Vegas shooting video and gave me a warning on that one. So this was like a second strike, and it's like one more and you're out, So I kind of dropped that shooting subject a bit at the moment and concentrated on other things. But your video was really interesting with the white room scenario. And also, like I mentioned to you just off air, the very first thing I saw in there was, wow, the picture of the Matrix with an upside-down pyramid on the back of a TV and like an eye in the middle. It's like we've been programmed.
Yep. So yeah, I can talk a little bit about that real quick. And what's interesting? I still need to watch your video because I know it's only hosted on your website. So I'll probably do that after this interview. But oddly enough, my video is still up, and I haven't gotten a warning sign yet. It's demonetized, but I was really worried about putting it up there because I was wondering if I was going to get a strike. So
I think the thing is because mine went up there within the first day or so, they really target those early ones. Later on, when there's lots of them, I think they probably don't target them so much. But because mine was first up, one of the earliest ones, and it was starting to get a lot of plays, they slam it.
Yeah. My subscribers probably think I'm crazy or something, but you know how a lot of YouTube creators, we're trying to get around the system, right? So you don't want to put false flag in your YouTube title, or you want to be very careful with your tags that you put on the background. But I realized that on all the YouTube videos, or at least a majority of YouTube videos, they have the ability to transcribe your voice. So if you go back through a lot of your own videos and you go to the options tab and you hit transcript, their transcription service is actually really detailed. So I've gone through some of my prior videos, and literally word for word, it had 100% alignment with what I said in the video. And so I think that they can track you that way. You just say false flag, boom, it's there in the transcript. They can mark you. So in this video, I was trying to be creative with my words. I wasn't saying false flag. I was saying false incident. But I don't know if that helped or not. But the video. So this was one of those things where, just like you mentioned, when these incidents happen, everyone sort of piles on all at once. And I just sort of took a step back, and it's like, all these other people got it covered. But this one thing, I really didn't see anyone else covering, so I sort of felt a duty to put it out there. But one of the really strange things about the Texas shooting was I don't know how many people died there, 20-some. So it was probably a really gory mess, just to be graphic about it. And they decided to demolish the church. But before they demolished it, they had crews come in and clean up the entire church and then paint the whole thing white as a memorial. And they set up these chairs where the people were slain and a rose on each chair. And it was open to the public. You could actually go into the church where all these people died, and it was a memorial. And I just thought that was sick. I mean, people don't have any couth, to want to go into the actual room where people were massacred. I know that a lot of people have services or they'll lay wreaths and things outside of the events, but never actually going into the actual building. So I just thought it was weird that they would go through the trouble of the cleanup, painting it white, then only to destroy it maybe a week or two later. So in my research, I found out that the concept of a white room was actually occult in nature. It stems back from, probably since ancient days, but some of my research found it back to like the 60s, the 1960s. And essentially, the white room represents occult enlightenment. And so, as you mentioned, the Matrix, most people are familiar where Neo and Morpheus are brought into a clean white room with 2 red chairs and a TV in the middle. And this is the enlightening moment where Morpheus discloses to Neo what the real world is. So, I mean, that was a real powerful thing, just to see that this occult notion of enlightenment and the white room was actually playing out in our movies in Hollywood. And so it's not only the Matrix that uses the concept of the white room enlightenment, there's many of them. And so I made that relationship between the Texas church shooting and this occult white room, is that this is maybe a mark of the Illuminati, that they're basically saying enlightenment is near.
And you could well be right there. And interestingly, because there was that television with the pyramid on the back, upside down pyramid on that Matrix picture, yeah. Somebody else sent me another one from Bruce Almighty, which was also in a white room with a ladder in a position shaped like a pyramid. So it's that same symbolism again.
Yeah, I'd have to see if I can find more pictures of the actual memorial and see if there's anything else to it. But yeah, it seems like a real plausible theory. If I may, there is one. I really like principled statements or think about things principally. And a lot of people start to get into the conversations back and forth was like, Vegas, no one died in Vegas. Or Texas, no one died in Texas.
Yeah, which I totally disagree with.
Yeah, Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook is a weird one.
Yeah,
I'll admit that was really strange.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'd encourage people listening to this broadcast is you really need to step outside the box and think about the use of crisis actors and how it still might be real, that there might be real deaths. So take Vegas, for instance. I actually did a video on this. There was a guy who got shot in the leg and was bleeding out to death, and he was brought to the hospital and saved. And then in less than 24 hours, this is the storyline, in less than 24 hours, he was discharged from the hospital. They brought him all the way back to the Mandalay Bay and interviewed him so that he could be reunited with his savior. And this guy is standing on 2 feet, no crutches, no wheelchair, laughing, smiling, joking, no PTSD, being that he's back in the original spot, like essentially where he got shot. I was like, okay, this is fake. Yeah. Does that mean I think that all these people running around were actors? No. People have to understand, right? People definitely did get shot there and people did die.
Yeah.
But they can still bring crisis actors into the mainstream media just to drive the narrative, right? Like you heard about that one girl that started saying, hey, the mainstream media is not telling you the truth. And then she ends up dead a couple of days later. People really did die, but they do bring crisis actors in for the interviews with the mainstream media just so they can drive that narrative. So we really have to be careful and sensitive to say, oh, no one died, it's all a hoax, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think that false flag and hoax don't mean the same thing. This is what people need to understand, I don't believe they were hoaxes. These shootings were genuine and people genuinely did die, but they can still be false flag events because they've been, the narrative that we're being fed is not what actually happened. And they're, somebody's planned these events with multiple shooters, not just one and such like.
Yep. And what's sort of humorous about it is, again, like I think a lot of these are real, but I'm not saying that some of them aren't fake. Like Sandy Hook was definitely weird. I don't
Yeah.
know if anyone really died there. The other one that was weird was that Charleston, South Carolina church shooting. If you ever saw the cop video, the dashboard video when they arrested him,
No, I
you
didn't
recall
see
that?
that. No, I didn't see that.
I'll have to send you that. They basically just stroll up to the window even without their guns drawn. They know it's the shooter because this guy got away in his car and they found him and they pulled him over. So no guns drawn, nothing like that at all. They ask him to roll down his window, ask him to step out, just give him a little fanny pat, checking him for a gun, casually put on the cuffs, and then escort him to the back of their car. And then they all look at the dashboard camera and start giving each other high fives. It was just,
That's just
the strangest,
weird.
oh, the strangest thing in the world, especially when you see the police brutality that's happening in America for things like speeding. You get taken out. So there's definitely really strange things going on. But the thing I find humorous about the folks, and I don't think there's a lot of them, but they exist out there, the ones that say every single event is a hoax, every single event no one died, is these are the same people that are still on the boat of saying that the elite want to control and depopulate the earth. So the elite who want to kill half the world's population are staging fake deaths. You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
Like, why would the elite who want to kill everyone be so sensitive to killing people in these events? They have to fake everything. It just doesn't add up.
No, they don't need to fake everything. And there's a definite agenda behind it, behind all of these things that's going on, which leads me quickly to another thing, is the whole censorship thing. I've noticed an increase in the censorship that's actually happening of channels, like ours or yours, and people being warned or put in Facebook jail or having their YouTube accounts terminated and things like that. There is seems to be a growing power to shut down dissenting voices. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think we all knew it was going to happen. I mean, right now it's a slow process. Some channels are being affected more so than others. You're starting to see a lot of, at least in the YouTube arena, you're seeing a lot of people move into Patreon because the first level of censorship is the fact that you're getting demonetized, and the second level of censorship is you start getting strikes and the risk of your channel being taken down. I think even Nicholson 1968, they went so far as to shut down his actual website. So he had he had some things about Sandy Hook on there, and his web service provider actually shut him down. I don't know how he got it back up, but that was pretty crazy. I haven't actually seen websites get shut down by the web service provider. I've seen them get hacked, but never submit to the authority of some external influence and literally just terminate an account. So yeah, it's spreading, and I know you and me, we're trying to do everything that we can just to stay in the game and get information out. But we all know at some point we're going to get cut off, whether it's because war breaks out and the internet's just not the same as it used to be, or who knows, right? There's a virus that proliferates through the internet and shuts it down. We don't know, but the censorship is definitely on the rise.
Well, it is, and it is interesting, even back to the whole AI thing. What if if we get into the system and if it is controlled largely by artificial intelligence, it gets to the point where the artificial intelligence actually even decides what is a threat to it and shuts it down. That's what I was thinking this morning. It's like, here I'm thinking, right, we're moving away and making our website our central focus, our Minutes Midnight website now. So I'm going to be putting all our videos on there at least a day or two before YouTube from now on, and making that our hub, and thinking, well, that's much less likely to be shut down than, you know, our YouTube channel, which could be disappeared, or our Facebook group or whatever. They could terminate it at any time. But, you know, and then there's this thing, well, eventually at some point, the beast system will want to control absolutely everything, and that will include shutting down websites, or potentially, like you say, shutting down the whole internet is possible.
Yeah. And, you know, it really comes full circle to where we started, right, with the AI conversation is, you know, YouTube, the people behind YouTube, the creators of YouTube, the creators of Facebook, they're trying to write code so that they can recognize keywords and demonetize you or brand you as fake news. But it's still controlled by people, right? There's a lot of stuff that we can't do. But to your point, this singularity, which I think is a thing right now, right? They're starting to bring in all these different AIs so that they can learn off of one another. And once these AIs become powerful enough and they span the internet, they can do everything that humans can't. So there really may be a point where, you know, you're taken off the grid just because the AI outsmarts you. It can recognize your content, whether it's on your website or YouTube or Facebook or whatever social media platform you're on, and it assigns you a threat metrics score and takes you down.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm sort of thinking. Because even if they do take the internet down, which they could take the whole thing down with a kill switch, like my friend that works in the security said to me about that botnet that they've recently found, sooner or later they will have to bring it back under some form or other, because they'll need that, I believe, for their controlling system. Because I don't think the beast system is going to be like ISIS, with some people trying to take you back to the Middle Ages and, you know, just beheading people with swords or whatever. It's going to be far more technical than that, and artificial intelligence, etc., I believe, will be part of it. So even if they did shut the internet down, it would only be for a temporary thing. We'll just say there's some sort of EMP attack or whatever it is, or a virus, or this botnet that takes everything down. I think it would be a controlled event in a sense that they will be able to bring it back, but completely controlled next time.
Yeah. And remember too, this is probably one of the pieces of the puzzle. Remember, the governance of the internet was released from the United States control, right?
Yes.
You remember that a couple years ago?
Yeah.
That was during the Obama administration. Yeah. Do you remember who it went to?
China was a big player of it, but somewhere in the United Nations.
Yeah.
But yes, and things have changed since that, I think, more and more. So there could be a definite factor in that.
Yep. So I mean, there you go. It all sort of all leads back to the United Nations. All the pieces are coming together.
Yeah, they are. And I'm just thinking again to that center in Saudi Arabia. I think that, at least for the Arab countries, but it's not just called Arab, it's called the Global Center for Combating Extremism. And that does, according to their website, have the capabilities of advanced technology to monitor and shut down things like that. And the scary part is that all the Christians that think Donald Trump has brought some sort of a reprieve, Donald Trump and a lot of the people he's associated with have actually been players in a lot of these things that are going on, including that one.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about Trump heavily during our last conversation. I was really glad that we were both on the same page about him, and you said a lot of your subscribers are as well. Yeah, he's definitely one of those wolves in sheep's clothing.
Yeah, I agree. And people always go, well, it's much better than Hillary Clinton. Imagine if she, and yeah, okay, well, Hillary would have been terrible. Yeah. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with a lot of these elites, which I think are second-tier level elites. You know, is there going to be a purge where a lot of them, I'm not saying necessarily the Clintons, but where they're jailed and people go, right, we've got rid of the criminals, but the bigger criminals will still be in power, which, I remember years ago seeing somebody written a graffiti under a bridge, and that graffiti was, jail is where the big criminals send all the little criminals. And, we could see that playing out in a sense.
Yeah, and the thing that worries me, so when we were in the Obama years, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on, and I was thinking it was all going to go down pretty soon back then. But the one thing that Trump has over Obama that Obama never had is the military didn't really favor Obama.
Yeah.
There was a lot of purges, right? So he was purging people out, and so a lot of people said, "Oh, he's getting rid of the conservatives that don't like him and putting in his own people," which was probably the case. But with the military being much more conservative, I think just military members are, I mean, because they like guns and everything like that, they tend to be more conservative. They have an outpouring of support for Trump, where Obama never had that. The same thing with the police. So there was a lot of news about how the Fraternal Order of Police, for the first time ever, I think it was the first time ever, supported a candidate for presidency, and that was Donald Trump. So what really disturbs me about Trump is he said he loves war. He's all about war. He has the narcissistic personality to just do whatever the heck he wants. He has tons of police support, tons of military support. He has more military generals in his cabinet than any other president since World War II. So he's surrounding himself with military. As you talk about these big prophetic wars that are going to break out, I see Donald Trump in a perfect position to really carry things out, especially with all his militaristic support.
And yeah, you did right. And he's also loaded his administration with Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and bankers and associations with people like Stephen Schwartzman, who chaired one of his committees on foreign relations. And these people, he's with Blackstone Group, are tied up with this whole Saudi Arabia spying thing and all that. And it's like, do people not connect the dots? I just... they're so focused on we've got to jail the pedophiles and get rid of the Clintons, and they're sort of missing the fact that this is, I think, Hegelian dialectic. And while they're taking away things on one hand, they're putting other things in place on the other side, but it's all a distraction because you're being distracted. I mean, it's great to see the pedophiles jailed and all that, don't get me wrong, but are we being distracted by some bigger things that are going on while these other things are making the news? Or Hollywood, and well, that's another whole aspect which we haven't got time to get into, but what are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's easy to talk the talk, but, is he really walking the walk? So, for instance, I'll use another example. So Trump, put his whole presidency on building the wall. Yeah. A lot of people like that. Do we really think he's going to build a wall in his presidency? Personally, absolutely not. But what he's done, just to talk the talk, is he's had all these prototypes put up. So it looks like progress, right? So, oh, look, Donald Trump is building the wall. He's got these prototypes out there. But is he really going to do anything about it in his presidency? 4 years? Probably not. Same thing with the pedophilia. He may talk about it, and there may be a couple arrests, but the big players, they're still protected, So it's to your point, the Hegelian dialectic.
And I think that is what we are seeing in so many areas, and people are just being duped, really.
Yep. Yeah. And Christian churches, too.
Well, that's right. Where do you see the church at? I mean, I know our time's kind of getting on. We haven't got a lot of time left, but where do you see it? You see people talking about revivals, and I watched Kenneth Copeland trying to bring everyone back to the Vatican recently, and people buy into this unity and think this is something great. And it's like, whoa, folks, can you not see this as a global religion in the making? And I see apostasy rather than revival. Yeah,
that's the scariest thing. Islam doesn't scare me. Islam, what it is, and you see where it's coming from. The really scary thing is just the apostate church, because you don't know who to trust.
Yeah,
and I know it's affecting a lot of people because there's a lot of people that don't even want to go to church anymore. Yeah, they're too afraid. And I mean, I do believe you really need to get into a physical church and be meeting with brothers and sisters. I mean, there's nothing like having the fellowship of the body of Christ. But just all the different deceptions, all the false Christs that are rising, people are just afraid of what to believe. Especially even if you look around YouTube videos, it's hard to find anything where people are in agreement. Everyone's in disagreement about everything.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just have to remove yourself and pray and just ask for guidance from the Holy Spirit. That's the only thing you can do. But yeah, the Kenneth Copeland thing, it's been really interesting because I just did a video on him and Todd White from Lifestyle Christianity. I have a series of salvation testimonies. That's one of the things I do from a ministry perspective on my channel. I bring subscribers on and they tell me about how they were saved. So a lot of people that were in prostitution, drugs, gangs. I mean, some crazy stories have happened during those interviews. But there was one interview where this guy was talking to me and we opened up the chat for questions and feedback. And people asked us, who are some really good pastors or preachers or teachers that we can look towards. And I was astounded how many people said Todd White. And at that point, I had never heard about him. And then when I started to look into him, I was like, oh, wow, this doesn't resonate with my spirit. This guy seems a little bit dangerous. So I put out a video just warning people about him and some of the warning signs that I saw. And I got some negative feedback from that. But now what's really interesting is a lot of those people that gave me negative feedback about that first video are now coming and saying, oh, I see the light now. Because Todd White did a little soiree with Kenneth Copeland where they're both asking for people's money for a new endeavor. And so Todd White is just going down the hole, aligning himself with very deceptive characters like Kenneth Copeland. And I'm just glad people are starting to see through some of these teachers that are basically bringing people down.
Well, Kenneth Copeland, definitely. I watched a video recently where he was basically saying the Reformation is over. The protesting is over.
Oh yeah, he called it evil.
Yeah, and basically aligning himself with the Catholic Church, and I mean, I have nothing against Catholics as people. I was brought up one, my family's one, but I got myself right out of that whole Catholicism system, and the further away you distance yourself from it, the more you see what's wrong in it, and to say that we should be realigning ourselves with that Vatican and the Holy See is just that's hugely dangerous in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, these pastors really need to know history. If you don't know how Protestantism was born and why the Roman Catholic Church hasn't changed since the 1500s. I was born and raised Roman Catholic. From birth I was baptized, and all the way through 22 or 23 years of age, every single school I ever went to was Catholic. And then I fell away from it and then sought Christ for myself and was saved. And you're spot on. The more you get away from it and the more you read your Bible, you see how many things are wrong with the doctrines of the Catholic Church. Not to say that the people are bad, because we were Roman Catholics at one point, but the institution itself and the doctrinal beliefs that these men have institutionalized in the form of religion is just bad.
Yes, I agree, and I see it all moving towards a global religion, which I think will be the beast, the religion. And I also find it interesting, going back to that city of Neom, which people should look into and watch my video, that Mohammed bin Salman is basically touting it as a place where all religions can go, and that's in an Islamic country. But he's saying we've got to get rid of extremist Islam, get rid of that and all forms of extremism, and then embracing all religions. So I see this as a really big move towards an amalgamation somehow into a Luciferian religion in the end. And like I say, again, all the pieces are just falling into place. It's like, every year more and more pieces, and they're accelerating. So that's my thoughts on it. Have you got any closing thoughts? We're coming up towards an hour, so I guess we better not go too much longer. But yeah, have you got any thoughts that you'd like to close out with?
Maybe just one thing, just because I just inadvertently run into a whole bunch of random YouTube videos that essentially stated the same thing, and it's all about just the church not falling asleep, right? So the virgins and their lamps of oil. A lot of these videos touched on the point that back in 2015, everyone was in heightened awareness, right? So we had the tetrad blood moons and oh geez, who all knows what else was happening back then, right? The Pope and September 23rd and all this stuff, and then nothing happened the way we thought it was going to happen, and then people started to fall off. But I think the part that you and I and a lot of our peers are playing is to really get the word out that stuff is still happening at a rampant pace. You know, to not fall asleep, to stay on guard, not be lukewarm about it. If anything, be more bold, because we are in the last days, and you need to be bold in your faith, and not just to watch a whole bunch of Christian truth or YouTube videos, but to preach the gospel, you know, in your everyday life. Try to bring people to Christ. That's what really counts. But that'd be the only thing I have to say is just, don't fall asleep. Things are still ramping up. You, Tony, and me, and everyone else are going to try our best to get that news out to you all. But we gotta stay on guard, and we gotta make sure we're bold in Christ.
Ultimately, and if people don't know Jesus as their Lord and Savior, then it doesn't matter how much they learn about the New World Order and the Illuminati and artificial intelligence or whatever. It's not going to count for anything in eternity if you don't know Jesus as your Lord and Savior. I'll tell you what, Mike, my closing thought is, do you want to maybe just pray for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. And dear Lord, thank you for bringing myself and Tony into this interview discussion. I really appreciate the opportunity to reach all of his subscribers and mine as well that have come to his channel. Lord, we pray that this information enlightens these people so that they can come to you and be more fruitful, be more bold, go out into the world, seeing that the time is near, the end of days, the last days, that they can help try to lead people to Christ, to be fruitful, to give and love and be kind and show the fruit of the Spirit. Lord, we pray for your protection for when these terrible things come our way. We hope that you strengthen us so that we can put on the full armor of God. Amen.
Amen. Well, thanks. I've really enjoyed chatting to you again, Mike, and I certainly want to do it again in the new year. That'd be awesome if you can swing that.
Yeah, maybe I can even have you on my channel.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like it could be a good scheme. So we'll be definitely keeping in touch, and thank you. I really enjoy your insight into things.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
So, folks, make sure you check out Mike's website, onpointpreparedness.net, and his YouTube channel, Onpoint Preparedness, as well. Definitely worth checking them out. And also, don't forget our website, aminutetomidnight.com. We run it 100% by donations, and we really appreciate people that support A Minute to Midnight. So there is a chance to donate on the website. We put all of our shows on the website as audio downloads as well as video. It is now our main place for putting our videos. If you want to see our videos the day we put them out, you want to go to our website rather than YouTube, because you never know whether our YouTube channel will be taken down. So please make sure you follow the A Minute to Midnight website, bookmark it, and even join our new community forum that we have there. Would be great if you like A Minute to Midnight and what we do. We'd love to have you on our community forum. So that's all at aminutetomidnight.com. Remember, midnight is spelt M-I-D-N-I-T-E. I write, play and record all the music that you find in our shows, and you can find some of my music as well on our website. A Minute to Midnight is run by a team, and we really appreciate the support that you give us, our listeners, and it's great to have you on board with us. So anyway, until the next time, this is Tony signing off for the A Minute to Midnight Show.